had a very unique experience around 30 minutes ago in my what I term at least my inner realms, and I felt it deserves to be talked about. So this episode is really a commentary on a way that I have experienced my mind move. And to begin in anything, in trying to share anything, the speaker's job is to reveal the concept and then to place the concept into a context. I find that when the human being wakes up in the morning, or you could be someone waking up to existence, but what is happening is that there is a relationship with a dynamic state of being. Now, if someone was like, okay, what can you do in this world? I would say in this modern time, in 2021, I would say that you can do as a creature, pretty much you can physically move, or your body can move, or your body can have a purpose, and then there is the mind, which can have a purpose. And usually when we come to understand the mind, it is in accordance to the body. That means it's as if like one of the first, let's say, reasons that we are intelligent is for the intelligence to preserve. It's as if before we were conscious creatures, there's just this biological pattern doing its thing on this rock. And then a certain step up from from what it was doing was to become conscious of the expression. Now this consciousness provides an ability, like gives the person an ability to acknowledge reality in front of their eyes, and also gives them an ability to acknowledge reality behind their eyes. What we find behind our eyes tends to relate to what we see in front of our eyes. That means aside from, let's say, artists, or let's say writers of fiction and whatnot, a lot of what the mind is doing centers around physical reality. Now, I had a unique experience, and throughout the years I've talked about, my eyes to the global stage. But the experience I had recently was that for the first time, or let me see how I can say it. Okay, so this human being has a relationship with what's in front of its eyes, and it has a relationship with what's behind it, what is behind its eyes. What is behind its eyes? Let's say for most people, maybe it's like, let's say for the common man, it's like 90%. It's like the majority of your intelligence is going towards the framework of your senses. It's as if the senses bring in the colors, and your mind paints with them, right? Now, for me, the inner realms is a space. That means it's like growing up. Sure, I've the concept of, oh, look at this. This person has imagination, or this person is creative, non-creative, whatever. Like the whole point is that there is something happening here, and in it, because it has form, and because there is space, relationships emerge from that, and the relationships that relate to form, that means if you this might be one of the at least to me it's a cool statement, that in some sense we are the only species that consciously has established a relationship with the invisible, you can say, nature of how it's all being here. The mind gives access to a room. Now, the reason I say this is like, it's because you can see people, let's say two people sitting on a bus, and one of them thinks something, the other thinks something else, apples and oranges, but they don't see, the fruits of each other's mind, right? So it's as if there is a private server, a private space. Now, to me, this private space recently appeared as a hallway. And when I say a hallway, you see there's a view of a hallway, and then there is, imagine you let's say you're in a hallway and you see it, right? Or you go to a memory of yours where you were in a hallway, and now imagine you're in the hallway and you close your eyes. You still feel where things are. Now, to me, in my inner realms, the nature of how my mind moved was that it allowed a space to occur, and that space provided an intensity of how things were being animate. So let's say right now in front of me, like there's a piece of paper, I like dropped this piece of paper, where I'm sitting. Okay, so the paper fell down. It fell down with a certain speed, with a certain, okay, the paper was real and it fell. But now it's, imagine closing your eyes and imagining that like a piece of paper, invincible piece of paper, flying, beyond the clouds. Like the mind can animate, can project what is beyond the real, right? That means it's as if our intelligence is not just kind of like looking around, finding, let's say, like a person stranded on a celestial island, on a galactic island, on some island in a galaxy. And it's as if, what are you doing in that? Oh my God. A person who's stranded looks for everything to use, as if there's a sort of survival mode that goes into play, let's say. The mind uses the senses through the strange power of memory. It animates the senses and brings forth variations, I wondered, why is it that I can see things in one moment and then suddenly remember that moment again? That means, or how should I say it, like right now as I'm speaking, and all the words that I'm saying, it's not just sounds appearing out of nowhere. The roots of what I'm saying is in accordance to how my memory, how my inner environment has format, and it also has rhythm. And so it's as if a person remembering a moment while being in the moment is actually suggesting that when it comes to your mind and to that space where imagination dwells, it's not a person who has an imagination, it's a viewer. It's just a viewer. And this is one of the most fascinating, I would say, mysteries of human intelligence, that we can understand our brain, we can understand everything, that we can open up to some degree, but that which is seen, that means right now as I'm speaking, I could say I'm this, I'm that, but the viewer of the body and all those, the preform, the structure of the words that I am saying, they are traveling. It's as if when let's say person A spoke to person B, what person B hears is the echo of what was taking place in the inner realms of person A. And what it is there is actually a multidimensionalism. And because we are afraid of the unknown, and when our mind goes into an unknown state, we try to grab the known, and we call that truth. Truth is, you can say, a seatbelt for those who are afraid of the speed of how intelligence in this cosmos can happen. Do you know? Truth is like a helmet. It's like, let me put on my truth, nothing's gonna hurt me now, But the whole point of it, I would say, is that the mind And here I wrote pretty much 3 notes for this episode, even though this whole episode I'm just kind of like how you would have, like, let's say somebody who saw, like, I don't know, a lion roar in the forest. It's as if like I'm more of a commentator this episode, but I did write notes, 3 notes that I have to talk about. One of them is the mind aware of the mind. This is the start of, I would say, the mystical mystery. But anyways, back to it. What I'm trying to say is that there is the presence of intelligence, and then there is a relationship that has arose from this intelligence. And even if you look at the definition of mind, like in the dictionary, it's the set of faculties that leads to behavior and, let's say, intelligent activity, right? But what I find it is that because we have identified with the body or with physicality first, it's as if any new finding of, let's say, some sort of, let's say, hidden intelligence that dwells within the being, it's all being filtered by what is in front of the eyes. To me, the space of my mind appeared as a hallway, and pretty much I felt these doors open. And in regards to the inner realms, I feel human beings have different relationships. Even that kind of, how would I say it? It's as if somebody says, "Okay, Mr.Within, you're saying that there's a world behind our eyes. So is there karma in that world?" I'll say yes, but the karma shifts instantaneously. That means if we were to say that there's a subjective life and an objective life, your objective life's karma is very different. That means, and your inner life's karma is really actually how an unknown viewer is engaging shape, changing and moving faster than actually the physical shape. That means people may think they lived a lifetime. How adorable. In your mind, you're living lives, many lives. They come and go. The language of the soul of the world is human life. I would say human beings are the poetry of a field of intelligent activity. Scale it as cosmic as you want, as micro as you want, as macro and micro as you want. So I just read the chat section, guys. I checked it before starting the podcast. It was audible. So you guys everybody should be able to hear me. But but right now I checked and everything's maxed out, so I don't know. I hope that what needs to be heard is heard. Really what I'm trying to say is that my mind moved in a certain way, and the relationship I have with my mind opened up to a dimension of mystery, and that dimension of mystery would surpass the nature of objective and subjective truth. It's as if we are conditioned to look for an answer because we're identifying with a temporary animal. But if there is a chance, give it 0.0 however amount of zeros you want, 1% chance that you are of the nature of the transcendental, that there is more than the mind being present. That means what was in the room before our mind was. And in some sense, if the mind is the room, how can it have a relationship with it? If I was to kind of summarize how my fascination for this world has evolved from the beginning of my life till now, very quickly, if I was to say that, it would pretty much be that I was like, okay, what makes sense in regards to what I see? And then, what makes sense in regards to what is looking? I am telling you, there's a feeling of that not, I think nothing in the physical reality can give you. Do you know a feeling like this? But it's in some sense suddenly feeling not. There is a term for it in a cultural sense. They call it the imposter syndrome or something. But I would say this is realizing an like, how can I tell you? It's as if everything you have known yourself have been the dimension of the effect of an unknown causal position. It's like looking in the mirror and being like, are you an object? And then looking in the mirror and being like, are you a subject? And then realizing the singularity of all existential events. It is only on an experiential level where it becomes multidimensional. You know, existentially, whatever every being to me is like, there's an equal sign between them. Nobody can go to someone else and be like, I'm existing more than you. It's like, no, everybody's existing in space and time, you know, in our conception of space and time. But when it comes to experience, this is where there's a spectrum of conscious activity and unconscious activity. And what's very interesting is that when you look at certain cultures, like ancient mystical traditions, you know, yogic cultures, what you see is that they took the path of renunciation, as if like their efforts in this in uncovering the true nature of being led them to realize that they are inputting something prior to looking. It's as if am I seeing let's say, you know, the aurora borealis. It's like, am I seeing the northern lights in the sky, or is my brain happening? Do you know? It's like, which one is it? But anyways, one can have a relationship with their inner realms. It's honestly not something I think you can teach, because every being's different. Like, every person's journey and their memory is different. To me, the archetype of the hallway appeared, and in some sense I felt doors open. And these doors that opened felt an access to an intensity that I don't have in the outer realms. Do you know? That means, to me, if I was to, the same way, let's say you look in the mirror and you see your form. Just a second, guys. I gotta do some tech stuff. Okay. So, excuse me. So, just like how you can look in the mirror and you see your shape, you see you. In my inner realms, how I can see myself can have an intensity that is dehumanized. Do you know? It's as if, like, we don't realize it, but in front of our eyes, let's say you bring in a religious context and you say we are the creation, the creatures of, you know, God or the universal source or whatever, you know? And then in behind your eyes, it's as if you're a demigod. Do you see? That's the nature of the mind. Do you know? It's as if there is again, the spectrum of conscious to unconscious, the spectrum of the conceivable towards the inconceivable, and it's as if somewhere in the middle of being an animal. And what does an animal mean? An animal is defined by its environment. It is a creature that lives in accordance to an environment. Do you know? That means when you look at animals in nature, it's not like they're stupid. They are the environment's programming, like express channel. They're channels of the environment. Do you know? But we have access to an additional environment, and that environment behind your eyes is left to your choice. And when I say choice, that means there's a view where it's as if you can get deeply mystical and philosophical about it, and somebody's like, yeah, I got free will. And then you're like, who has free will? And then you see the who is based on the environment. But then you see that it's that attention and energy's instantaneous being, which is your presence. They don't teach this, but it's happening, and it's there, and it's as if the mind, I shouldn't say mind, the being is there before you do. Now that the nature of that being, it is in some sense evocational. So, I had this thought the other day where I was like, what if in the future there's going to be artificial cyber paradises, and imagine that we were to decode paradise. We were to in some sense wonder about, as if like, even if you reach the notion of a paradise, it's as if the initial lines of how it's even there, you know this is a bit of a tangent where I'm going with this, but I would say this, that if you look at the concept of heaven and you look at the concept of hell, they are loops. They are loops of different intensity. They are infinite. It is only the earth which is finite. It could be that in an eternal movement, the experience of the temporary is the most divine, act. Once a person gets established in their presence, they realize that their attention is observing the environment and is not the environment. And when you realize that in your inner realms, you instantly have freedom to animate your mind in any way. Your imagination, let's say imagination is not something you're born with, it is something that activates, and it activates in accordance to in accordance to oh my god in accordance to the effort to reverse engineer into the source of what is even being the life of the moment, prior to how we categorize reality. What is that we are in a realm where there is light and darkness. Really, consciousness, another word for it would be light. Without it, it's like, what are you conscious of? All content is light bound. Existence to the mind is light, but to the body is matter. And it's like a dance of light, space, and matter. And it's like, yo, there's a creature here. There's an entity here. When doors open in the hallway of the mind, the inner realm advances. I have this strange feeling that the human species or I should say it this way, that the idea we have right now in 2020 of what it is that we are as beings, it will become so multidimensional. Give it some time, maybe 200, 400 years, but it will become so multidimensional. And what's going to happen is that we're going to zoom in and out of it. Do you know? So it's another way of saying, before eternity is remembered, there will be infinite management, or an effort of how would I say it? It's as if, like, when we realize you can break a particle, like they broke the atom, and and what is it? You go even you see the quarks, and even you go much deeper, And it's as if, how many levels to life are there? So is it a choice where we are? You know? Sometimes I get shocked, or I shouldn't say shocked. I get stunned through fascination of why even the intelligence of activity is here. And it's like a candle in a dark room. On some level, your intelligence is being the meaning in space. It is illuminating the space of its meaning. But at the same time, why? Why is life alive? It's like, why is life here? I would say, or that's another way of saying. Now that mystery even extends to, let's say the experiential dimension of the human being. And now it's like, not only we have an ability to survive in front of our eyes, but now the survival behind our eyes will suggest the survival of the species, and towards the end of time. It's as if we haven't realized that maybe as a species that it's all or nothing. Sometimes I think about truth, and let's say we reach the ultimate truth. It's as if, what then? What does post-truth look like? It's like, or it's another way of saying, where else can truth go? It goes to the illusion, and then the illusion remembers, and all it can do is just forget and remember itself till the end of time. It's like an eternal, it's like an unknown intelligence is again playing with space, light, and matter to take a shape, to forget all, to then realize there's nothing else other than that. There's a Discord community. Last night I was telling someone, I don't know if it was last night or when it was, but I was telling someone, in some sense, being left as if beyond being an object, or how would I say it? Here, I'll just go into a new approach to this idea I want to convey. So forget the Discord thing, I'll say this. An object animated, and then its evolution was into a subject being animate. As if an object got bored of being an object and became a subject. Now a subject is getting bored of being a subject and is noticing it is the presence of the moment. So in some sense, how would I say it? I would say the evolutionary chart of human beings would be Homo sapiens, then the cyber sapien. And then after that, it's as if you have become just moments of being. In the inner realms, a person's attention is them. At least that's how it happens for me right now. Like as I'm speaking, my eyes are closed and I'm still seeing. But what I'm seeing is like the coming and going, or I would say it's more like a river. And it's like it's like imagine you're by a river at night and you point a flashlight. Let's say you've gone camping or something, and so you put the flashlight in the middle of this dark river, and suddenly it illuminates. It reveals what is there, right? And it's as if right now, as my eyes are closed, it's as if the attention is the light of the, it's like the flashlight, and the river is the inner realms, the space where intelligence dwells to itself before it manifests. And where else can a being go beyond cause and effect? It's as if, are we experiencing life or are we creating the experience of life? I honestly don't know what our species can do beyond swimming in objective reality and swimming in subjective reality. I can't see, like, what else can the human, what other purpose can the human being fulfill? Do you know? We're either being characters in stories or, objects in space. And the inner realms is just like a privilege. It's like to have a mind is to not just be in a world, but to notice it is there. And to have a soul is to notice your mind is noticing the world. That's really, I think, true spirituality. It is not conceptual. It is where the origin of the experience is, the end and the beginning are the same. So it's as if the person's like, okay, cause and effect applies to the body, and then you wonder about, okay, does cause and effect apply to the mind? And because the mind relates to the body, yes, but in some sense, what is aware of cause and effect doesn't relate to cause and effect. It's as if there's, let's say, for example's sake, or just to be able to say it, it's like, imagine there's 3 dimensions that the human being is alive, and the 3rd dimension has nothing to do with the other 2. It's as if people on Earth are like, oh, good and bad, but let's say hypothetically, if there were advanced species in reality, they would be just like, it's all energy, stop freaking out, people. It's as if energy's doing all this. Why? But I think having an ability to give at least a decent amount and percentage of your life in attempting the discovery of where your intelligence is arising as a being, not just as a human being. And noticing that your attention, I can say it now, is like the hallway, and all the variations in how the world is changing are like the doors opening and closing. The intensity of the inner realms is so great that people don't realize, like, let's say you're a person who you're used to watching TV, okay? And suddenly your TV breaks down and you're somewhere where you don't have access to TV or any sort of screen of media, right? Now, if let's say it's quarantine, corona, so you don't have access also, let's say, to go outside or whatever, and now you're left with just your, let's say your physical body in one place, and now your mind's movement. And I am telling you, when you can watch your thoughts, you attain great concentration. Concentration is another way of saying start from stillness and watch what moves. I don't think there's any greater meditation than that. It's just observing how attention is breathing, how it's here. The finite are defined by duality. The infinite are infinite, never ending, shapehood. And then there is the void. That means after you have, let's say, lived life as a finite entity, and you have lived life as an infinite being, and you have lived life as the empty sphere of space, as space, then eternity is another way of saying you have transcended all fathomable existence. That means I feel if there are greater dimensions beyond where we are now, they are irrelevant. They're irrelevant to any story. They're just levels of being. It's as if when one, it's as if there is. Okay, let's take a religious angle here. I'll be bold. So as you go towards God, and God, let's take the monotheistic view of it, that it is the inconceivable. And as you go towards the inconceivable, all of what we can do is a response to the conceivable. So the inconceivable is beyond doing anything, right? This doesn't mean you in this life just, become a statue or a tree. I'm saying that it's like, to be truly serious with the implication of the divine, it's as if in a conceivable room, and once it's as if there's a conceivable room, and beyond this room, which is the inconceivable, and the door to that is the intelligent mind. The mind is the door to the inconceivable. And the hallway is, in some sense, you could look at it in the outer realms. It's the whole cosmos. What a long galactic, universal hallway. And then the hallways of the inner realms, which I am telling you, I feel every person's personality, even though there's so many arguments that connect it to the biology, and they say that, okay, it's the person's memories, it's like what the person's been exposed to, it's like this massive archive recycling itself, I will tell you this, beyond the human framework, when it comes to discovering the nature of your own mind, or or how the self is being a self, how you're being a self, you get introduced not only to variations of your own self. That means, imagine not only a good self or a bad self, not just but a spectrum of chaotic and ordered selves, but then you notice a familiarity. That means it's very strange. It's as if a person, just like we have astronauts in the outer realms, I would say in the inner realms, let's say there's astronauts, inner knots, and let's say that, I'll just go with inner astronauts, just like an inner astronaut, as you not only have in this life seeing, not only, it's as if you go beyond the familiar, and if you're familiar with your mind, it's as if a space has noticed what's happening in it. Now that's space, so it's as if like it's a human being wondering who I am, or the wondering the question, who am I, and closing its eyes, and as it has closed its eyes, upon the recognition that it's all being, and regardless of what activity or animation or movement, it's all being. That means existence is like being. Upon the acknowledgement of the simplicity of how you're being, then you become, I would say the closest word for it, you become a student of your own mind. And it's a reversion back to familiarity of whether you choose to see a sense of self for it or not. I'm telling you, our intelligence is so advanced that, think of as if the mind coming up with probabilities of ways the body can move, let's say in an emergency or something. It's as if poetically the soul has come up with various probabilities of mindhood. There is this concept, of course, in Vedic thought they call it para-Brahman. In Western thought, I've heard people call it oversoul. The person's like, yo, I don't just have a soul, I have an oversoul. What does that mean? It's like, is the person over the soul? It's like, it's like, not yet, not yet. The oversoul is the suggestion of what moves your movement, and beyond its conceptualization, beyond its objectification and, let's say, subjectification. It's like what is looking through your eyes remembers that it doesn't know itself, and it instantly comes to its presence, and from that presence there comes instantaneous know. It's as if once you actually experience the unknown nature of how it's all being here, then the doors of the inner realms open. Then your imagination is no longer chasing anything. It is the space where all is happening. What can I say? On a rock in the middle of nowhere, in a universe that we named because we were frightened of the void, in all the games the mind and the body play, and how the world, how culture, society, and civilization is functioning. It's as if all I hope, this is one of the, I would say, my deep hopes for humanity, is that right now we are in an era of a certain level of, I'm speaking for the species, a certain level of safe fixation. Safety through a fixated and repetitive approach of how human beings have lived from the beginning of time. But when unknown dimensions enter, and either we go towards the summit of the mountain, or I should say it this way, either we go beyond the clouds, or what is beyond the clouds comes below. And if what is beyond the clouds comes below, that means if there is how would I say it? the shaped manifestation of an unearthly other, or let's say in other dimensional other, then the strategy the species has had of pretty much we can't play the same game when unknown experiential variables change our whole view on change our view on the collective. I remember, I don't know if it was in a talk or not, but I remember I had compartmentalized reality on, okay, let's say there's an individual level, let's say there's a collective level, and then there's a transcendental level. And the transcendental level only arises when the individual has experienced the collective and the collective has experienced the individual. And when this happens, the transcendental level is the recognition of the individual and collective as being neither. It's as if men will worship gods, and gods will watch man. Until neither were ever here, and the transcendental origin. How would I say it? It's as if you reach the edge of a known system, as an individual. Then let's say an advanced civilization happens in the future. Civilization 2.0 comes about, and you reach, let's say, a certain edge of collectivity. And then after that, either those two levels are infinitized, we infinitely just live as an individual, live as a collective, or the transcendental level is would be its own miracle. It's very strange. Being alive right now to me feels like, on this earth, feels like I'm somewhere where so many things that are unfathomable to me will happen. Do you know? That's honestly something worthy of honor. That we are on we are on the greatest stage. I'm here thinking I'm giving a podcast, but it's as if existence is existence. Is the unnecessary ultimate, Something else I should probably comment on. I feel I'm reaching the end of what I can say here for tonight. In my inner realms, this is just something personal about me, I am comfortable moving geometrical shapes. I am comfortable envisioning lines. I am able to copy paste anything I see, just whether my eyes are open or not. Like, I can imagine anything with the visuals wherever I am. That means it's like to some degree generated through the effort of the conscious will. That means it's kind of like, it's as if, let's say, if you could be a soldier in an army, but when it comes to your own mind, you are the commander. It's like an instant command, instantaneous occurrence, not even a personality and no traits or attributes can even be attached to how instantly the inner realms arise to connect to the outer realms. In my inner realms, I'm comfortable seeing geometrical shapes. For some reason, trying to find, faces in the unknown wasn't appealing to me. And I had this experience where I said to the audience here that the logos told me, don't look for a face in the unknown, because you can get attached. That means something can give you an emotion and you get attached to your reaction, rather than realizing the greatest exploration of being is like I shouldn't say endless continuity, but in one talk I said the two most important words on this earth could be go forth. That's a power, the power of the effort of the conscious entity. Now, in my inner realms, when I say these doors open, so I was sitting in my balcony having a cigarette, and just for a moment, my inner realms, again, I'm repeating here, but my inner realms felt like these doors opened, and there was a space. I don't know how else to explain this, but I feel like I've had a recent upgrade of of what we call imagination. But what it is it's space remembering its authority, or its authorization to animate. And what it is I don't know if members of this channel have seen the artwork I draw, the geometrical artwork I draw, but I would say what I saw in my inner realms was another way of saying it was like, how would I say it? It's like I experienced, imagine like so you, let's say solid, liquid, gas. It was as if light moving like gas, where the geometry of how it animates, it's like it's fading in, fading in. Oh man, I don't think I'm doing a good job explaining this. Pretty much I'm saying, if you're, let's say there's a person, he closes his eyes, he can see geometrical shapes, he can even see these geometrical shapes move. Now I'm saying, imagine you see the geometry of your mind move similar to how, let's say, if how steam fades. I don't know how else to say it. It's like a new way my inner realms move to me. I should say this, I think. But anyways, and I connect. How would I say it? Like, there's a mystery behind your eyes. It starts with where the eyes are, which is the body. Then when it goes towards who's looking through the eyes, you get access to your mind and your memories and the whole storytelling projections of identity. And then beyond that, there's I would say, definitely, and even many mystics point that there's a still point and a silent point. You reach a sort of moment where you can't do anything. It's honestly, I would say, one of the most humbling states of being, where you realize you are just here, and regardless of what you do, that sense of here remains. It's another way I could say it. It's like the body is temporary, or what is more eternal than the body is like the voice of the person, or their expression. And what is more eternal than the voice or words is the eyes that saw it before starting it. And I will say this, that if you, as, let's say you're someone interested in, mystical ideas and just the whole mystery of existence, don't let it consume your life, of course, but at the same time, put the effort to reach Wonder if your eyes are looking at the moment in a way where you don't know yet. And I will tell you, you will come to the great unknown mystery of reality, and you'll see this game of truth telling was a waste, not a waste of time, but I would say it's like a truth cannot be told, but we are moving somewhere. And the exploration of that is really the experiential exploration. There's there was this yogi by the name of Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj. He says, "What you can only know what you are not. To know what you are is in some sense just being." That means if a person didn't know, what value would knowledge have? You know. I've written two more sentences of the notes here. One I wrote, consciousness is light. I think that's pretty clear. It's like, how do you know you're conscious? It's because light is in your eyes. And then the second thing I wrote, and this is more for something I noticed that is happening on this planet, right? Because it's sure we have explanations of the body, but when it comes to explaining the mind, there is a level of solitude. I don't want to say loneliness, even though here I've written when the alone let go of their misery. What I mean by that is that it's as if there is a solitude. Excuse me. Sorry, guys, this was on mute. My God. Man. If there's anyone listening to this right now, if you can tell me how long the episode was on mute, that would be helpful. Oh man. Anyways, um, okay. Okay, somebody says, Daniel says, like 10 minutes. Oh my God, 8 minutes. That's. Okay, 8 minutes is better than, anything more than that. Yeah, anything more than 10 minutes would have been like a. So, guys, I'm honestly, I don't know what the last thing people heard was, but okay. Best thing I can do, when I lose the trail, is to climb back. It's kind of like giving a talk, honestly, guys. It's like climbing a mountain, you know. And then if there's an interruption or something happens, it's like you fall down from the mountain. You gotta climb back up, you know. Okay, here. Um, I was reach. Before I unmuted it, I was literally reaching like the last sentence I was gonna say and end the talk. Ah, solitude, nice. Okay, so Leanne in the chat section said solitude. Okay, so I said consciousness is light, and then when the alone let go of their misery and the nature of solitude. Okay, here I'll say this. I think I know what I said in the time that was lost, and people are gonna be like, "Yo, this is such an interactive talk." You know, this Mr. Within's talking to the chat. But people who don't see the chat, they're gonna be like, "What is this guy saying?" You know. Okay. Um, People can have a relationship with their mind, and I think maybe what was missed in that time period was that the nature of how my mind has opened to me. It went from a sort of geometry, or how would I say it? It's like if I can imagine geometry, I mean, in my life, I could look at anything, and whether my eyes are closed or not, the inner realm overlay is there. And known things. I can see their multiplicity. I can see their animation and their intensity. Do you know? But in regards to, I don't know. I feel maybe this part was heard. All right, guys. I think it's easier to apologize than try to recap. I can't pinpoint it, but anyways, our outer life, pretty obvious what we need to do. Our inner life, our outer life is pretty much continue as a natural creature before it all ends. Our inner life is this discover the nature of being. And I feel in the journey of going towards, like, okay, I have this mind, what does it do, what is it, when it comes to that point where it's as if what is being the mind right now, that inner observer, aside from having an ability to, let's say, work with the copy pasted versions of what it sees or what the senses bring, as if everybody's being gifted by their senses. The senses are like, oh, here, I'm going to gift you, this sunset image. But the presence, that which is viewing the mind, after playing with subjects and playing with objects, it's as if beyond an individual level, beyond a collective level, it's like, what else? It's like two ways of seeing it. The universe is being human, and the human is being the universe. It's as if human life is it's like temporary. Life is how a I would say it's like eternity's dreaming. It could be like this life is like, not an eternal dream, but eternity's dream. You know, beyond the conceivable. It's as if like there's no conception. So it's another way of saying awareness as no thing, as nothing, is the ultimate for a creature that is suffering. Every person on this planet can wield their intelligence and should explore their imagination and report its findings. That's what's left, It's like the truth of space surpasses shape. It's like after shapes, what can we do? It's just like pure being, and then the unknown is left. That means the beyond all knowledge, the unknown remains. That is the most advanced form of divinity and spirituality. Like, it's like, what else can surpass the unknown? So it's literally like a known doer, D-O-E-R, known doer, going towards going towards an unknown being. The unknown is the normal. The unknown is the norm of existence. The knowledge is like a unique luxury, you know. It should be maybe like a temporary being, you know, feels safe with knowledge and fears the unknown. Maybe an eternal being, you know, feels safe with the unknown and, you know, fears not. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening, and wonder about the doors that can open behind your eyes. Much blessings and namaste. For every moment sings about where it came, where it comes from. We can't hide our being, regardless of what we do. So those who accept it, you know, it's like, it's another way of saying transcendental truth. So, yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Much blessings and namaste.